Well, hello. You might be wondering to yourself, Lena, are you a real adult now? Have you evolved into somebody who can keep plants alive? No. Not yet. I am cat sitting for a lovely friend, Amy, who is currently in New Zealand, and hopefully she can get back home. Thank you, Amy, for your wonderful aesthetic. And as the coronavirus wages on, books do not stop. However, as you can imagine in publishing, all these authors have spent their whole bloody lives on these books, and while it's probably not the most pressing thing in the grand scale of humanity, it's huge to me that a lot of the books that are being published between now and who knows, but we'll go with June, are not going to get the same launches and attention that they might have previously done. They won't have physical space and presence in the bookshops. They won't get their launch parties and book events and tours. They possibly won't get the TV coverage or the radio coverage, mainly because coronavirus is taking over all of our thoughts, words and deeds, but also because I imagine a lot of them are going to be in quarantine. There won't be any outdoor advertising for their books because said outdoor advertising will be outside and other people will not be outside. The streets will not have people on them, so people won't be paying for advertising. If we go too deep into this, we're going to get very sad. And I thought, what can I do? And I thought maybe I can fill the space for all that lost newspaper space, the lost events, the lost launch parties, and give you a little roundup of the books that are coming out over the next few months that I think are incredible. I gave a shout out on Twitter. I got possibly hundreds of publicists messaging me about all these kind of different books. I spent a long time filtering them through, reading all the press releases, Googling the authors, finding out stuff about them, reading first chapters and thinking what makes a good book. And then I also thought about what you guys like, what you've responded to well before, and I made you a custom list of what I believe to be the most interesting and exciting books coming out over the next few months. Now, there might be a part 2 to this because there are definitely books that haven't come in the post yet, books that I haven't discovered yet. The publicists' emails keep coming in, but I want to at least make one video to showcase some of them. And I hope if you are thinking about how you can support the book industry right now, I hope that you'll think about buying these online from your local bookshop by ringing them up, or perhaps buying them in ebook or in audiobook. Pre-orders really support a book, so if you have a feeling that you're going to love a book and you're going to buy it when it comes out, I would encourage you to pre-order it. If you would like a whole video on why pre-ordering is important for books, I will do that. But right now we're going to get into the book. So here is your curated, personalised, as I've known you guys for 10 years now, list of books that I think you might like that are coming out over this reading hibernation season. That's what we'll call it. First of all, a few books that might have been missed in February while all of the shit started hitting thy fan. This is a book called Adultonauts by Joe Dunn. Joe Dunn wrote Submarine. I was going to interview him on stage for London Book and Screens Week this year, and I was so excited to meet him. But one day, Joe, one day. This is one of the funniest books I have ever read. This is the story of a man's mission to apologise for the bad things he definitely did, but which weren't all that bad really when you take them into context. And they were almost certainly not so bad that he deserves to lose his wife and job and start receiving anonymous threatening packages, which in turn force him out of his first floor flat and onto the sofa beds of his friends, who were themselves crushed by the merciless forces of fertility and London property. It's a tongue-in-cheek look at privilege and being a 30-something in London, trying to buy houses and live through strange circumstances. Part of it is set during the London riots, and the commentary on oblivion and fuckwittedness in this is just, I actually think I woke Craig up at one point. He was asleep in bed and I was reading this book next to him, and I snorted so loud that I woke him up. But it genuinely, and I really hate the term, it's a laugh out loud book, because who really genuinely laughs out loud when they read a book? Me, apparently. Me. It was a lie. I was wrong, okay? This book genuinely made me laugh out loud. Escape Routes by Naomi Ishiguro was interesting to me for 3 reasons. It's short stories. I want to read more of them. I love them. Neil Gaiman blurbed it and said it was amazing. Trust. And then thirdly, interestingly, Naomi Ishiguro is the daughter of Kazuro Ishiguro, who's written some of my favourite books, one of them being Remains of the Day. And while I don't want to see somebody in context of their family, I do think it's interesting to see what she comes up with, and the blurb is amazing. A space-obsessed child conquers a vortex in his mother's linen cupboard. A musician's fascination with the birds who flock on her balcony offers a startling new perspective on the city. A rat catcher summoned to a decayed royal palace is plunged into a battle for the throne of a ruined kingdom. Yes, sold. Can't wait. Losing Eden, Why Our Minds Need the Wild by Lucy Jones. I will basically read anything that's a nature book that's got narrative stuff in it that says it is a rallying cry for something. I don't know why that recipe seems to call to my soul, but I love a good bit of non-fiction. I love a bit of nature writing. And this book explores why being disconnected from our environment and the wild can really, research-based evidence that shows that it can really affect our mental health. And then also I am imagining that will then expand also into climate change discussions, which I am always here for. So I'm very excited about that. The other one in February you might have missed is Since You've Been Gone. Teddy featured on the channel a while ago. Teddy's one of my longest and best friends. I've been friends with them since I was 14. And the play that we raved about that you may not have been able to see that they wrote, and it's a one-person show about gender identity and grief and joy, and it's beautiful. They have put it up for free for a month on their YouTube channel, so if you'd like to watch a staged filmed version of it, you can. And they've been published. You can now buy the play to read, which is really exciting, so I'll leave a link to that in the description. But I'm so proud. If you like 90s references and joy and nuanced conversations about grief and longing, and you feel like you should also read a bit more about non-binary experiences, this is the play for you. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God. Quarantine. Day 1 million. March brings the 5 Rules of Rebellion. I'm still waiting for this book in the post. I'm expecting it, but as the postman has let me down, I'm still going to tell you about it. Sophie is the founding leader of the Women's Equality Party. It's a book about what she's learnt about activism, and the sell on this, I was just literally like, I need this book in my life. Can I just read this to you? Escape the numbing effects of despair. Learn to channel anger. Arm yourself with hope. Practice perseverance and connect with others compassionately. Get that in a syringe. I want a shot of that. Also in February, on a similar vein, if that sounds good to you, is Imagine a Country, Ideas for a Better Future, edited by Val McMind and Joe Sharp. It's a collection of Scottish voices, some of them new, some of them very recognisable. Ali Smith, Carol Ann Duffy, Jackie Kay, Don Patterson, Ian Rankin, Alan Cumming, Alexander McCall Smith. It's Scottish people imagining how great their country would be if they weren't tied to the UK, and I'm here for it. But they're positive essays, imagining what the country would be like, not being like, this is what's wrong, fix it. More being like, imagine a country where, and that's the kind of hope that I need. And I barely read anything by Scottish voices because I'm a twat. So me and you, date night tonight, yeah? And also the British Library are reissuing these amazing books by women that were really famous in their day, but have, for one reason or sexist another, have gone out of print. And they're from the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s and 1940s. I've got 2 here. The Tree of Heaven by Mary Sinclair and My Husband Simon by Molly Panther Downs. They're all raised, they're all beautiful, they've got flaps. When we say that the canon is written by men, I think it's because of amnesia. I think we've forgotten all the famous books that were written by women because they weren't remembered properly and they weren't preserved properly. So I'm really excited to read those. And if you're fans of classics, this would go some way to rebalancing your canon from your probably predictably shitty curriculum. April brings a paperback I just want to highlight, although I don't have it here, is Aisha Malik's This Green and Pleasant Land. This was one of the best books I read last year. It's just so good. I will leave a link to where I viewed it before. It's about a Muslim family who are very happily living and integrated in a very small, like classic English village, and one day Bilal, the dad of the family, gets this calling that he should build a mosque in the village, and it's all about the tense interactions between people who do want a mosque in the village and don't see a problem with it, and people who really don't want a mosque in the village and struggle to find their real grounded logical reasons for that. It's one of the most heartwarming and sharp and clever books I've ever read, and I am so excited for you to discover Aisha Malik as a writer if you haven't already. She's a fave. One for escapism, Outpost, A Journey to the Wild Ends of the Earth by Dan Richards. We used this as a prompt when we were doing our Lena's Lock-In Creative live streams, and potentially a really good one if you're stuck indoors. It's about the famous and little known places of wilderness in the world, the little huts where people have gone to hide, whether they're literary names or unknown names, and it asks, why are we drawn to the wilderness? What can we do to protect them? And what does the future hold for outposts on the edge? Sold. This one caught my eye for the title at first, to be honest. No Modernism Without Lesbians. It's about one pivotal time in Paris between the 2 world wars, where 4 women, Sylvia Beach, Natalie Barnley, Bayer, I don't know who that is, Am I supposed to know who that is? And Gertrude Stein broke the rules and fostered the birth of modernism. They all lived as they chose, wrote as they wanted, were open about desire and true to themselves. Their contributions shine like a beacon for today's women of courage to seize the agenda and escape the rules of patriarchy. Sign me the fuck up. And then also The Switch, which is has a main character called Lena, double E. Unusual, no. Beth O'Leary, whether you deny it or not, I'm just going to believe in my heart that you named this character after me. Last year I read The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary and it was so good. I've already started this one. I'm loving it so far. Lena is too young to be stuck. Eileen is too old to start over. It's time for the switch. I think it's a girl and her grandma and they switch places. I'm all for a switching novel. I loved Melanie Murphy's If Only last year. This sounds so good. And then we're on the home stretch, are we? There's still a lot of books. And then May. May is the bumper month, guys. May is when people will need your help most. The Lonely Fajita, Single and Not Quite Ready to Mingle by Abigail Mann. I've already heard loads of people rave about this. I've heard her compared to Mari McFarlane, who is one of my favourite fiction authors, and I've read everything she's written, so I need something else until her next book comes out. So I'm very excited about that. Fathoms, The World in the Whale by Rebecca Giggs. This looks like it might just be a book about whales. And to be honest, that would be fine with me. But actually, on closer inspection, it looks like it's a lot more. I really like this line from the press release. When Rebecca Gibbs encounters a humpback whale stranded on her local beach in Australia, she begins to wonder how the lives of whales might shed light on the conditions of our seas. How do whales experience environmental change? Has our connection to these fabled animals been transformed by technology? What future awaits us and them? And what does it mean to write about nature in the midst of an ecological crisis? So this sounds like a lot about the kind of mythology of whales and how we interact with whales, and then also how we write about nature when it's already falling apart. I think I need this in my life, and the cover is also really stunning, so I'm so excited about that. Kat Dunn. Dangerous Remedy. Kat is one of my friends from university. We studied some creative writing at Warwick University and we've been friends ever since. We've written together during every NaNoWriMo, in between every NaNoWriMo. She is my Starbucks OG. We just sit there and we buy one black coffee and we write for hours and hours, and she's a great friend of mine and she's also incredibly talented. When I was in the class with her at Warwick, I still remember so vividly some of the short stories she wrote for that class, and there were actually some books that she started that I'm still following up with her, like, excuse me, where's that book about XYZ, that are still close to my heart. So I was so excited when she got her first book deal. This is Dangerous Remedy. It's adventure, it's YA, it's queer, it's set during the French Revolution. What a premise. The cover's very exciting and I'm really looking forward to curling up and escaping from the world with this. So this is a proof, but this is what the cover looks like, and I accepted this book purely on the premise of the author. Elizabeth Acevedo wrote Poet X, which I read last year and absolutely loved. She's a spoken word poet who writes in verse and she does it so well. It's about two young girls whose fathers both die in plane crashes and it sounds incredible. How to Belong by Sarah Franklin. Sometimes you have to leave home to realise where you really belong. Sometimes I'm drawn to books just because of where they're set. This book is set in the Forest of Dean, and I've never read a book set in the Forest of Dean. It's two perspectives, it's about female friendship. I'm basically sold. It's exploring what it means to belong to a rural community in a rapidly changing world. Take me to the forest, frankly. And then finally, for this video at least, we've got this beautiful proof. It's called Charlotte, and it is, hold your breath, The Untold Story of Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth Bennet's best friend in Pride and Prejudice. I love a good untold story. I love some metafiction. And I've always thought Charlotte Lucas was hard done by. It looks like it's kind of a feminist look at why Charlotte Lucas took Lizzie Bennet's sloppy seconds, i.e. Mr. Collins, who everybody thinks is a buffoon and is an idiot, and Charlotte Lucas marries anyway, knowing that he's an idiot, and what her life is like after she marries Mr. Collins, and if we can understand her choice from a feminist perspective, which we definitely can, and I think it's time for Charlotte Lucas to shine. So I thought you guys might be interested in that, because I know we've got so many fans of Jane Austen in the house. Anyway, did you have a I hope you had a piece of paper handy when you were watching that and writing down what you wanted to buy and read. I will leave the links in the description. Make sure to add them to your Goodreads if you want to remember which ones you loved the most. Let me know what books you're reading during this surprise hibernation season. There are more booktube videos here if you'd like to watch them. Do subscribe if you'd like, and join the Gumption Club if you want to support these videos and the little book goblin that makes them. That's me. Thank you so much for Amy for the use of a very aesthetically pleasing flat, and I will see you in my next one. Frog Snog out.